Fáilte, Uicha Hamna, darklings. I hope your pumpkins are carved and your cauldrons are stirred, because the spooky season is upon us. And ghouls, do I have a freak show for you. With the Halloween season upon us, my fellow creatures of the night, on this channel we plan to celebrate. So join me, darklings, as we creep on into our first ever Spooktober. About 10 days ago, I took a walk through the woods and discovered something vile and unbelievably disturbing. I have questions that urgently need to be answered and don't know where else to turn. I hope this all makes sense to you. Well, it doesn't even make sense to me. I live in Stockholm, Sweden, and English is my second language. I'm sorry if any of this is difficult to understand because of that. As I was saying, I live in Stockholm, in a small flat on the 7th floor of a run-down looking apartment building. It's all I can afford. That particular night, all of these events had taken place. The couple in the apartment left of mine were fighting, loud enough to keep me from sleeping. This couple tended to fight a lot, to the point where I knew a lot about them, from hearing every word through the paper-thin walls. I thought about how I hated living in this apartment. I knew they did too. The woman would shout, "We can't just stay here for the rest of our lives." The man would always respond, with how they don't have enough money to just live wherever they want. Sometimes my mother would gripe about me living in this apartment. She would say similar things to the woman. "If you don't go to college, you will stay in this disgusting apartment forever. Do you want that?" I say the same thing to myself sometimes. Maybe I need to move on from my dreams of being an artist. I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about everything. Meanwhile, I could still hear my neighbours yelling. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I ask myself, if I could be doing anything in the world right now, what would I be doing? I decided to go for a walk in the woods. I got dressed in the warmest clothing I had and left my building. I don't know if you know what it feels like in Sweden, but the cold is like needles on your skin some nights. This was one of those nights. There are woods about a half a kilometre from the apartments. I started walking. If you didn't move, if you stood for too long, the cold would eat you alive. When I reached the woods, I stood and admired the stillness and strange feeling in the air. I didn't admire too long until I had to start moving again. I walked into the woods, past the set of light poles into the darkness. I listened to the way the snow sounded beneath my feet. I liked the muffled, slipping, sliding sound it made. I was getting deeper and deeper into the woods, further and further away from the light. It was dark. I thought about how I should have brought a flashlight. Then I thought about how there are no coyotes in this woods, and this is just a walk, not a horror movie. Deep in the woods now, I started thinking about turning back, and then I heard something. "Hjälp me, snälla du, hjälp." I turned around immediately. In English this means help me, please help me. What I saw froze me worse than any amount of cold I could have felt. There was a woman. She was hanging. She was hung upside down by her feet. I can't seem to forget it. There was blood dripping down her face, and it all seemed to be coming from a gash on the side of her head. "Please, it will kill me," she said in Swedish. I couldn't push any words out of my gasping mouth. Behind her were several other bodies, hanging from tree branches by their feet. Their heads were detached, laying on the ground below them. I remember their eyes were wide open, and their skin was pale and covered in snow. The blood was bold on the whiteness of the ice. 17 others, and you will be the 18th, is what she whispered, translated to English. Get me down, please. I started to reluctantly step toward her. I should have kept going. I should have ran as fast as I could. 2 more steps and I heard something. It came from no animal or human. It was more disturbing than the 16 corpses hanging before me. I don't know how to describe it to you. It sounded like the creaking of a door or like one of those wooden frog toys where you slide the stick across the back and it croaks. Except none of those. It was almost guttural, like a slow screech. It wasn't human, I swear. It just wasn't. I ran back in the direction of my apartment and didn't look back until I got there. As soon as the elevator reached the bottom floor, I immediately went in and pressed the 7 multiple times, frantically, before turning around and seeing the woman who lives next door to me, the one who yells at her boyfriend until 1 in the morning. She looked puzzled before she walked past me and left the elevator. She was holding a backpack and had a suitcase behind her. I guess she was finally leaving this place. I got to my floor, then my room. I called the police immediately. I reported what I had seen. I took my coat and other layers of clothing off and hopped back in bed. Needless to say, if it wasn't hard to sleep before, it definitely was hard to sleep now. There was never a police report. Nothing in the newspaper, no news story. I wanted to go back and look at where it happened, but I couldn't gather the courage. I want to forget so bad now, but it won't let me. Every night, for the past 9 nights, I hear tapping on my window. It happens at exactly 3:18 p.m., which is close to the time I went for a walk in the woods that night. It happens in a specific pattern. I have even memorized it by now. If anybody knows Morse code, maybe you could see if it translates to anything. If it translates to something in Swedish, just tell me what it says and I can translate that for you. My theory is that the taps are dots and the scratches are dashes. It has to be the creature that made that noise. How could a human get to a window on the 7th floor? The tapping pattern is as follows. If anyone has heard or experienced anything like this, please give me information. Thank you for listening to my experience, and to anyone who can help with the code. I will be moving apartment buildings as soon as possible. Thanks for joining me for tonight's tale, Darklings. I am GoblinPrincessKyo, and if you enjoyed our encounter, then subscribe for more accounts and tales from the darker side of life. Ah, the broom fell. Company is coming. Sweet dreams. Meet you back at midnight.